Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Women Who Mean Business. How are you all doing today? I hope everybody's staying warm. I know here in Houston and most of Texas, it's gotten super cold, which is really unusual for us at this time of year. So we may have a cold Thanksgiving. I love it. The idea of not being able to wear shorts or flip-flops on Thanksgiving actually makes me happy. And I cannot believe that Thanksgiving is next week already. So, um, everybody, hopefully you're getting ready, prepared. It's pretty awesome. Good morning, Noxie. How are you? I'm so glad you're here. You're here to support us, your friends. So today's guest is Kasia Johnson, who I was able to be connected with through Knox Keith here, Burr from Dallas. Yeah, imagine it's super cold in Dallas. So it's really cool how in our social media and marketing world we connect with people that we may not have met in person, but we just know that our kindred spirits, and Kasia is one of those women. And I knew that I wanted to have her as a guest on Women Who Mean Business because she is a force to be reckoned with if you follow her and follow her post and the things that she does. So Kasia is the founder of Merge Forward, which is a digital agency out of Dallas. She's an accomplished and reputable out-of-the-box thinker with 14 years experience in creative execution and team management from large corporations to boutique RMSs. We'll talk a little bit about that. But she's also an expert in relationship building, which helps her clients to build these authentic relationships with their clients and their prospective clients and other brands. And Kasia is, as I mentioned, is the founder of Merge Forward. It's a full-service agency that specializes in design, social media strategy, content creation, and brand building. She often speaks about brand building and being able to really fully develop your brand to nurture those relationships with your clients and prospective clients. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Kasia on so we can get this conversation started because I know she's got lots to share with us. She and I had a great conversation last week before I left for Baltimore and prepping for the show. So here we go. Hi, Kasia. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited.
I'm excited to have you here. And like I said, I have been following you for a while because of Knox. And I just really love what you're doing. And I wanted to make sure that you were on so we could share your story.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So you and I share a history of being from immigrant families. I know you were born in Poland and you came over, or your family immigrated to the United States when you were 8. So can you share that a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, so English is actually my third language.
Oh,
Um,
cool. What other
yeah.
languages do you speak? I mean, obviously Polish, but
Yes, so I went from Poland to Austria, where I learned to speak German, and there I went to first and second grade. As we waited to be let into either Canada or the United States, eventually Dallas said, "Hey, we'll have you," and we came on in.
oh my gosh. So what prompted the move? What prompted your parents to make this move with their family? Because it's not a light undertaking. It's not something you
No.
just decide one day and go, hey, I'm gonna just uproot my family and bring them to an entirely new country.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge decision, and we were so little, me and my sister. It was communism. It was a really tough time where parents were very well off, they were very well educated, but the resources were not available, nor were you allowed to leave the country. And it was really frustrating. And I think with the World War II prior, you just never know. I think a lot of people live in a lot more fear. And so my family just decided to go ahead and take the risk and move.
Yeah, and that's I think in today's society and culture, so many people don't realize how big of a deal communism played in the decision for so many families to immigrate. Because that's the exact reason that my family came over here. It was communism. I come from Vietnam, and they took over pretty much the entire country by 1975, and my parents did not see an opportunity for our family any longer in a communist country. And so, decided to make that trek. Thankfully, the U.S. helped us a little bit more at the time because my dad had been in the military, and had we not gotten out, I don't know what would have happened to my dad after
Oh,
the communists took over the country. So that's interesting. I didn't even think about that was the reason for your family immigrating, because we don't really talk about communism as
no.
much these days as
Mm-mm.
so. And then you got here and your family established in Dallas. Now, I know you've had the agency for, I believe you started in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, or longer.
Yeah, so we've been around for about 6 years, but I've
Okay.
been in marketing all of my life. So I went to college, got the marketing design degree,
Hmm.
and then I ended up interning at, all the big agencies and some boutique, like including the Richards Group. And then I ended up working for Neiman Marcus and Fossil and just as an art director, designer. So I definitely made my rounds.
So, and that's what I wanted to ask you about, like how that history all led to the creation of Merge Forward. I'm sure, you worked for some great groups, it sounds like, for a
Yeah.
while and some great organizations and probably learned a lot along the way. But what prompted you to go ahead and go out on your own?
You know, it's a good question, and there's a personal story behind it.
Tell
Um,
us.
I got divorced suddenly when my son was born, and I
Oh,
didn't see it coming. So I had a baby and a toddler, and within 4 months, my life completely changed. Like I was working with my ex-husband who had a marketing agency, more web design, and I helped him build that. And so that was gone. The house I was living was gone. Um,
oh gosh.
it was crazy. And so I went back into the workplace for about 2 years or so. I did some marketing work for a album company, and then I went into print, which was good because there was a lot of sales. But I just remember thinking, this is not the life that I wanted to build for my children. This is not the way that I want to have them growing up, which is pretty much living in daycare, me being in traffic for about an hour every single morning and then another hour in the afternoon. And I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. I miss being an entrepreneur. I miss building those relationships. And, going back to being an immigrant, I thought, this place, America is a place with opportunities, especially for women. I can get an education, I can start a business. And with the World Wide Web coming in and social media, I mean, these days there's no excuse not to start a business because you can get a logo for $50 online, or I mean, it might not be the perfect one, but it's a start. You can get business cards within 24 hours. You don't need a brick and mortar anymore. And so I just did it. And it's funny that you speak about Knox. I tell this story a lot, but when I told everyone, like, my friends, my family, hey, I'm going to go off on my own, everybody's like, no, 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 you're a single mom with little kids. What are you thinking? And Knox was the only one who was like, you should do it. This is a good idea. But if you're not making money in a couple months, you better go find a real job. I was like, okay. So, it's that time in your life where you're like, okay, this really sucks. And this is not what I want. So I'm going to do anything I can to make it happen. So I didn't even have a plan B. I did leverage, my relationships
Hmm.
that I still have with certain clients. And sometimes you just have to keep a regular job during the day and do some freelance work at night till you build it up. But it's worthwhile. I'm so glad I took that step because my family's in a happy place. I'm doing what I love. And like I said, at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur for me is just an amazing, amazing ride.
Oh, absolutely. It looks like Melanie's joined us. Hi, Melanie. So it's a friend of yours, I believe, right? Or one of your
Yeah,
contacts.
she works with us. Yeah,
Ah,
she's on our
awesome.
team.
Glad
Hi, Melanie.
glad you hopped in to join the show, Melanie. So that's interesting that you said that because my guest last week had a very similar start, and where she was ill and it was like, okay, I'm going to start. I just had a laptop and a vision and I just started, just got out there and started. And yay for Knox for being a supportive friend and saying, just do it, right? Just
Yeah,
try it at least. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you're right. It's so scary. And especially you being a mom with small children at the time and just kind of having the world kind of knocked out under your feet. But you were like, you know what? I've got these skills, I've got these talents, and I'm going to pick myself right back up and keep moving forward. And I love how you mentioned the entrepreneurial spirit because I feel like a lot of that is part of our immigrant history as well.
yes.
Because that's what my parents did when we got here to the United States. I mean, my dad had been a trained math teacher, but none of that mattered anymore. So they had to find an avenue to take care of their family, and that's exactly what you did as well. So I love that. So just start, right? Just get started. Put
Yeah.
together an idea, a plan, and just get started is what you would tell
Absolutely.
people.
Yes. And then persistence. Just keep at it because it's a roller coaster ride. You know,
Oh,
there's good
yeah.
months, bad months, but don't take it personally and just don't doubt yourself and keep going.
Absolutely, it is a roller coaster ride, and sometimes it is so hard to keep going when it's you've had that like, whoo, that really low, and you're going, oh my gosh. But it's great to surround yourself with friends and other people who understand
Yes,
what this entrepreneurial roller coaster ride is like. And
exactly.
so, and then you mentioned something that I really love too, is that you leverage your relationships. Uh,
Mhm.
to help you succeed at this. So let's talk a little bit more about that. How did you, what steps did you take to help your friends or your contacts know about what you were doing?
You know, at that time, I just was reaching out to anybody and everyone. And I also was part of the community where there's a social media club in Dallas, there's a design club. So I was just going and networking as much as I could. And then also some of the clients that I was printing for in my old business, they needed the creative. They were not happy with a lot of the print work that was coming out. And I just said, well, hey, give me a try, see if you like it. And they loved it. In fact, one of those clients is still a client of mine like 6 years later. So it's great. I
Oh, that's
think
awesome.
being resourceful is really, really important and just keep at it.
Yeah, I agree with you being resourceful and then also not being afraid to let people know what you're doing as well. And that's what I tell people often too. That's what I don't really advertise about my services and things. I really leverage the connections and the network that I've built, and I've spent a lot of years building it. Not with any end purpose in mind, but just knowing that they're out there, and if I can help my network or people in my, with my relationships, then that's great. And if it comes back to me, that's great too. And I think that's probably your vision behind it as well.
Oh, absolutely. And then another part of it is the motivation. And what I do is there's just so many resources again out there, like podcasts.
Hmm.
So in the morning, whenever I get up and I'm brushing my teeth and I'm getting ready, I just listen to them, or I listen to shows like yours. Thank you so much, by the way, for doing this, because I think it's really important to understand everyone's story, not just as an entrepreneur, but how they got there. And that's what
Absolutely.
motivates everybody.
It is, and you're right. I think as marketers, we're constantly telling our clients, right, tell your story, tell your story. But I'm so fortunate to know so many great women, such as yourself, who have really great stories that need to be told, but also to help motivate and inspire others.
Yes.
Because there were, I'm sure, lots of women who found themselves in your situation as well, where all of a sudden you're in a, you're divorced and you're like, wait a minute, what happened here? My world just turned upside down.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that and being so honest about that, because I know sometimes it's really challenging to share the hard parts of our life.
It is. It is. And I think another point to that story is that you need to really see who you're doing it for. If you're not doing it for yourself, then do it for somebody else. And I think that's what's going to motivate you. My motivation was my children. I knew that I could have survived on a couch or whatever, but with my kids, I wanted to give them a life like that all American dream. Because I grew up going from country to country, language to language, just different neighborhoods. I think I went to like 9 different elementary schools, or I'm sorry, through high school. By the
Yeah.
time I got to college, and it was just a lot of change. And I made it a priority that my kids are not going to have to go through all those changes all the time. And that motivated me and got me started. And then next thing the movement goes and goes. And as the years go on, the projects get bigger, and it's exciting. It's really exciting. I'm glad I took the risk.
Good. I'm glad you did too. And it is exciting. And like I said, I follow you and I follow Knox and what you guys are doing with March Forward. And it's just, I'm excited for you. And that's part of finding that network of relationships of people who not only possibly are doing the same thing as you or whatever, so you can collaborate, but also people who are truly supportive of you as well and are just excited at your
Mhm.
wins. Um,
Absolutely.
so, and I know you mentioned that you had done some work with, or Knox had helped you out and done some work and helped you interconnect you with some larger brands.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we
So,
got Anheuser-Busch and we got Benny Keith. And that's really where we're best at because
exactly.
It's because you get to really grow with the customer. Um, and because now we have a team, we really get to work on the brand, strategize and just put it out there in a way that gives us a really good plan going forward. It's not just like a quick website that's done in 2 weeks. We really get to spend weeks on end working on this brand and creating awareness around it. And
Yeah.
so we really find enjoyment in that.
Oh, awesome. And again, that's back to those relationships that you were talking about nurturing, because you're nurturing those relationships with the brands you're working with, but you're helping them to turn around and develop those relationships with their consumers. Because
Absolutely.
that's what people want nowadays
Oh
is
yeah.
a relationship with the brands.
That's what it comes down to. We don't really trust, I guess the old school advertising. We trust the stories, the testimonials, the brands that'll actually, comment back and speak one-on-one to us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a complete shift for those of us who have been in advertising marketing for a while, where before it was always, okay, here's our stuff, here's our ad, buy it. But now with social media and digital marketing, there's this whole shift of you've got to really be conscientious and intentionally develop these relationships with your consumers, or you're dead in the water as a brand.
Yeah, consistency is key of always being out there.
Yeah. And that just, again, it's all back to that human connection that we all crave, right? Everybody goes, but it's a brand, it's a logo. How are we going to connect with this logo? But you can. The
Yeah,
successful brands do so.
I want to know, how did they get started? What do they do now to connect to their employees? What's their
Absolutely.
culture like? What do they do, for maybe some nonprofits? What is their day-to-day successes and failures? Connect with me. Tell me your story. And then that way I don't feel so alone.
Yes, absolutely. So my friend Mia Voss has joined us, and she said, "So true. It's the personal interaction that makes a difference in storytelling." Faux show. If you two have not connected yet, you and Mia, you two should, because she's phenomenal as well. She's a rock star, and I think she would be great. Both of you would be great connections for one another. So hear that, Mia Voss?
Would love to.
I met her through social as well, some other friends in social. She's out of Denver, and we met up in real life earlier this year at a conference, and it was just like we'd been friends forever, like kindred spirits. So it was very cool. So, speaking of which, I cannot wait to meet you in real
I
life,
know.
and
I know. We've
you
known
already
each
tell
other
us.
for years, but only
I
through social, the power of social media.
Absolutely. It is truly the power of social media to help us develop those relationships. And then when you meet them in person, it's like, you've known them for ages. It's so cool.
Mhm.
So I'm going to take a step back, and because I know you'd mentioned the motivation for what you started and you did were your kids, which is great, because as a mother, I think so many mothers out there, I think that resonates with, because you're sitting there going, how do I make sure that my kids have the absolute best lives that they possibly can? And so that's what started it, and that's probably what still keeps you motivated and going, in addition to your own motivation already, because I can, if anybody's watching this or knows that you are probably pretty self-motivated on your own. But that's great. So so many women out there are challenged with this balance of motherhood and working. And so how are you addressing this, or what do you do to help make sure that there's this balance for you? I know it's probably a juggling act a lot of times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there is no balance. I think consistency is a really good part of it. But it's otherwise, it's just you have to remind yourself there is no balance and you have to do the best that you can. My kids are now older, so it's much easier. But there's just some days that, what, we all ate and we all, took a shower and got to bed. Woo, we survived, and then there's other days that, you try to pack in a lot more. But I always think this way. I'm like, they're going to be gone pretty soon. And so they're 9 and 13 now. And I'm thinking, these times are not going to be here forever. And so when you want to get upset or frustrated with yourself or even with them, I remind myself like, well, wait a second, one day I'm not going to have anybody to communicate with in the same way, with my kids, you know what I mean? They're not going to
Yeah.
be in my house. So I really try to think of the positive. I'm a fairly optimistic person. I think that helps a lot. And I think immigrating too, I know how hard it can be. So I wake up grateful every single day. Now, there has been a shift within me lately. I was raising my kids, trying to get the company started. That was a lot. Now that the company's doing well and we have a lot of the kinks worked out,
Mm-hmm.
and, we're now as a team working well together. What I was like, well, what do I want to focus on personally? And my kids are growing up, they're doing really well. And I just started thinking, what is it that I want to do for myself? Because a lot of times we're focused on the outside. And so lately it's been me thinking, what kind of woman do I want to be?
Oh,
Yeah, I do too. And I actually stole it from Reese Witherspoon. She was at the AT&T Summit a month ago, and I got to see her. It was great. She's awesome. And, she's made millions, and she's done so many different successful things. I mean, she is an entrepreneur, no longer an actress. But I started thinking, like, that's a really great question, because a lot of times we're focused on the outside, and the kids and everything else, family and friends are great. But, what kind of person do I want to be going forward? So we've done a lot of work with nonprofits. We love doing that. Knox and I and my team, we love to come in and do like free consulting just to help out, the kids or women in needs. Yeah. And it just, how do you pay back? How do you give forward? Because eventually, the success is, yes, that's great, but you can also burn out. And I have burnt out before. It was about 2 years ago, and it was really frustrating, because if you're just chasing the money or just trying to, keep with the day to day, and there's not really a stronger, bigger purpose, you will burn out. And so I think it's just really being self-aware every single day, gratefulness, and just thinking, where do I want to go? Where do I want to go as a person?
Oh my gosh, I love that you said all that, because it is true. It's like, what kind of woman do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Because, money and success, you need that to kind of survive and pay the bills and take care of the kids and things like that. But at the end of the day, what are people going to say about you at the end of your life, right? And so I love that your shift has been that way. And you're right. If all you're doing is chasing the money, it can burn out, because you feel kind of empty. And I know this is just speaking from my own personal experience. I know what you're talking about with the burnout, and you just feel kind of empty, and you have to take a step back and go, okay, what is it that I can do to help make this world better?
Yes. And of course, the money was good at first because you were surviving. And for all the women that are starting out, and you asked me about balance, I will tell you that the key, when my kids were little, especially, I asked for help. In fact, we formed a tribe of a bunch of single parents. And if one parent wanted to go out, then the other parent would babysit. It didn't cost any extra money. I've called girlfriends before and saying, hey, my son is sick. Can you stay with him for a second so I can run to the pharmacy? I mean, we've even gone to where my girlfriend and I would switch, and I would go to the grocery store in peace in the morning, and she would go in the afternoon, and then I'd get some work done. So don't be afraid to ask for help and form some kind of tribe, because that way you not only have the physical help of them coming in and maybe babysitting your kids or whatever, but also the mental help. You can sit there and talk to somebody, and you both are going through something similar.
I love that. And because so often we as women too feel like, okay, I can't ask for help. I've got to do this. Or as, a mom, or a businesswoman, you feel like it's a weakness if you ask for help, but it really isn't. It helps make you stronger to be able to have this tribe and this group who are in the same boat and who help each other. And I love that you guys did that, because if you're starting out your business, you've got very little time as it is. And then, you've got expenses going out the wazoo. So how do you get childcare or other things done?
Absolutely. And don't get frustrated too. As you're starting out your business, if it's not moving fast enough, don't worry about that. Just go ahead and move the ball forward. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, sometimes it's 30 minutes a day. just move it just a little bit and be patient with yourself. Because entrepreneurs, we don't tend to be very patient, right? At least I'm not.
No, you're right. And
I want it big and I want it now. Let's go.
that's one of our traits, is that we're impatient and we want it now, but we have to learn patience, because you're right. Success doesn't happen overnight. There's at least I believe there's no such thing as overnight success. You see people who are successful down the road, but you talk to them and you hear they've been going at it for 10 years, 15 years, and finally they're at this pinnacle of success. And so,
Yeah.
but you're right. We are not patient people. I think that's just part of being an entrepreneur, but it's like a catch-22, right? But I love the fact that you keep saying, and you advise people that, just take that small step forward, regardless of how little or whatever it is. But as long as you're moving forward, you're moving that needle, you're moving that ball. So that's great advice for everybody, really, not just those starting out their own business. So what are you guys planning to do for the holidays?
We're going to the Bahamas.
Oh my God. I'm so jealous every time. Not jealous, but you know what I mean. Like envious of your trips with your kids, because I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I love the fact that she's truly enjoying life, and the kids obviously enjoy the trip.
Yeah. We love to travel. I try to take them because I want them to see the world. I think that's a really good education. I think school is great, but there's a huge world outside of school, different cultures, and maybe because, I immigrated, so I always traveled. So, and sometimes our trips are little, sometimes we get in the car and drive to Austin. So you just never know, but I try to get them out there, and I love travel. And that's one of my little things for myself, that, if I'm going to work really hard and put in a lot of work and everything, if I have something to look forward to, then I work a little harder. So my little gift to myself too.
Yeah. I mean, don't be afraid to reward yourself, right? You're in this spot where, like you said, the business is stable and successful. So why would you not want to reward yourself and your kids? And the fact that travel is this reward is even better, because it gives them, like you said, this experience outside of what they know. And it just helps them to I think, fully form their characters.
Absolutely.
Even more. That's awesome. How long are you guys going to be in the Bahamas?
For about 5 days.
Oh,
we're super excited. And I'll be honest, like, there's those nights that you stay up really late and you're working and you're just like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this. But then in my head, I'm like, but wait, you get to go on a trip soon. So as long as I have something, that's been my little trick as an entrepreneur, is to just put something out there to look forward to. And then I'm willing to put in the sweat. And yeah, my kids are super excited too. I don't know if they realize how lucky they have it, but
maybe not right now, but they will one day. And so Knox says, I like that. Having something to look forward to makes you work a little harder. Absolutely.
That works for me. It totally works for me.
Well, and like you said, there are some days or some nights where you're just like, oh, I can't keep going. I can't keep doing this. And what's going to motivate me? Okay, the kids, but hey, I get a little reward. I get to be in the Bahamas for 5 days.
And look, I'll be honest, there's some years that we can't go to the Bahamas,
Of course.
Too much of a trip right now, maybe because as an entrepreneur, your business goes up and down. Sometimes it's related to the economy, sometimes because we're in marketing, right? Mm-hmm. So those are the first dollars to get cut and the first dollars to get put back in.
Yeah.
But you have to have kind of a tough backbone with it. So, for everybody listening, they're like, well, if she gets to go to the Bahamas, just know that my business has been in 6 years. I've been in marketing 15, 20 years. And that this is a trip that we finally get to go after all these years. But, maybe it's something else that you reward yourself with. Maybe, you buy yourself something, or maybe, you go just out to dinner with some friends and you guys just enjoy a nice night. I think it's important to have that personal life too.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I think back to what you were saying earlier, it's not so much balance, right? Because it is difficult to constantly find that balance, but a consistency of practice. Like you said, you knew. I mean, there are some years, yes, as entrepreneurs, you're not going to be able to have a whole lot of extras, but you worked hard at it. You know that this was a trip that you were planning towards. So that I think that helps that consistency of continuing to have this work. But you're right. And I'm glad you brought it up again because yeah, people are looking at this and are watching the show going, oh, she goes to the Bahamas, she travels, she does all this, but you've worked really hard to get here.
Yeah.
And again, I want to focus on or repeat the idea that this is not overnight success. Success is not overnight.
No, and there were tears in my closet that I cried going, what am I doing? Why is this year sucking? What is it? What is it me? And you go through all that and it just is, but then going back to the persistence and just having some faith, I think, to keep moving forward is important. And on those days that it does get really frustrating, I stop myself and I go, okay, just take it day by day. And if that's too hard, take it hour by hour. And if that's too hard, just get through the next 60 minutes, and you just do, you just figure out a way to do it.
Exactly. It's just like, okay, get through the next 5 minutes, get through the day. You can break it up into small chunks to okay, there's my goal at the end of the hour or whatnot. And so that makes it seem more palatable and doable.
Yeah.
So,
and too, now I have a team to lean on, but back in the old days, I mean, I started in my kitchen and just like your friend, I was like, okay, I want to start a business, but I don't have a lot of money to put into it. Okay. I have a laptop and I have my knowledge. Okay. That's good. We're at a good start. And I just started working in my kitchen, before really any kind of team was there. I would develop, a website. I sucked at it. So eventually I got somebody and then I partnered up with some friends that were also in marketing and I just sold their stuff. So there was steps, a lot of steps.
Yeah, and those are great steps to take because I think I'm at the point where you were probably 5 years ago because it's, after my last business that I shuttered because my business partner passed away, I was like, what do I know and what can I do that not easy, but I can start easily. And that was marketing.
Yeah.
That was my background. And it's kind of the same thing. I was like, okay, I have my laptop. I have internet connection. Let's get going. Let's figure this out. So that gives me a lot of inspiration, Kasia, to know that, 6 more years down the road.
Yes. And I think you really have to figure out what you want and what you don't want. Like I make lists, what's my purpose? What is it that I don't want in life? Helps you figure out what you do want. Like I thought that it was financial freedom at first. And yes, that's still up there and it's important because I'm a mom, but flexibility was huge for me. I wanted to be able to have a business that I could work out of anywhere, whether it's the airplane or it's somewhere, on a beach somewhere. That doesn't happen often, obviously, but it's nice that I can take my office with me. For me, it wasn't, I didn't want an 8 to 5 going into an office space. Maybe that'll change eventually, but at that time, I just wanted more freedom.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's part of why people want to be entrepreneurs, right? We feel like we need that freedom and that flexibility. And I, what you said really resonates with me. I love the flexibility because if something happens with my family or my dad has a chronic illness and often needs help with going to doctor's appointments and things, I can just drop what I'm doing or at least plan around it so that I can take him to his doctor's appointments. I can drag my laptop with me and work anywhere there's an internet connection. So those things are very important to me as well. So I get it. Of course, yes, financial freedom. I want to have that too, but the flexibility, but also being able to say no to the clients that you don't want to work with. I know that's really hard, especially when you're starting out and you're like, but I need the money. I need the project.
Yeah. And then you need to build the portfolio and have case studies. So I think the first 2-3 years, you have to kind of say yes to some of them, and then eventually the red flags come about.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I just don't know, because it's a relationship. You're dating kind of.
Yeah.
You just don't know if it's going to be the best fit. And if it's not a best fit for us, I usually try to at least give them some kind of reference and give them advice to send them on their way, so that way they can still accomplish what they need to accomplish.
Oh, absolutely, because they may not be a good fit with you or vice versa, but that doesn't mean they won't fit with somebody that you know. And so that's why I do have a lot of other marketers and things in my network as well, because people think, well, why do you want to be friends with people who are basically your competitor? But I don't see it that way. I don't see them as competitors, because there's, one, a lot of work to be had out there, but two,
Yeah.
there's a lot of collaboration that can be done as well, and three, not everybody's going to like everybody.
Yep.
And
You're
the
absolutely
value,
right.
yeah, the value is then for you to say, hey, you and I don't mesh, or you and I are not, I'm not a good fit. Usually that's what I'll say, is it's me, not you. I'm not a good fit for you, but I think these other people may be, and I think the value is then making that referral or that introduction, rather than just saying, hey, you're on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't want to burn bridges either. It's a small world out there.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And so that's so funny. I'm as you and I are talking, I love the fact that there's such similarities in our thinking. So that just makes me, want to run to Dallas right now and hang out with you in Knox and have a
Yeah.
few drinks.
Come on down.
No, I was just there. I need to make sure that I have some time for my friends
Yeah.
the next time I come up, because I'm dating somebody in Dallas. I'm up there once a month usually. Yeah,
Let's catch up. Let's grab
yes,
some.
for sure. I know people are like, "What?" I'm not a big share that part of my personal life. I share lots of other things, but not that part. Knox goes, "Come on up. I have the wine. Yay!" I haven't seen Knox in a number of years either, so I absolutely would love to. And so I can see his doggy too. I love that dog, that German Shepherd of his. So some of the things that you've already mentioned about, you're like, okay, find, something that you really love, right? You're passionate about, have that focus, that clarity. And then right now you've shifted. And so would you say your shift is really focusing on more of finding, more of a niche? Because again, when we're starting out our business, and we're just kind of like, okay, we're going to work with everybody, right? But
Yeah.
then we kind of figure out who we work best with and who we don't want to work with.
Yeah.
Nothing personal against anybody, but it's just what really aligns with our values, I think is what you would say as well. So are you finding that this is where you're going? You've talked about working with nonprofits. What's it look like for you next year or 2 years from now?
It's a great question. So we are actually doing a lot more social media training. So we're still a full service agency, but for some of these big brands, we've done a lot of training for execs so they feel comfortable being thought leaders on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And they understand how to use LinkedIn, Twitter, they understand the parameters of the brand. And then we also train their employees so that we have employee advocacy. And so I think that's really important right now because everything is on social. And if your brand isn't on social anymore, you're just out of touch. It's the trust that you're going to be building with your customers and prospects is going to be gone. And I think it starts out with the execs of a big brand so that they can connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's your shift, because you're right. Especially with the C-suite and executives, they're so afraid of social media. They're afraid of a misstep, and I get it. That can happen. But also, I don't think they fully understand that social media enables them to really develop the relationships with their customers, right? It's no longer just the brand or the company that people want to see. They want to see the executives. They want to see, the CEO out there answering questions, and social media enables that. And so I love the fact that you guys have that's your shift right now, because there's so much need for it.
Yeah, there is. And, they want to hear from the consumers want to hear from the execs.
Absolutely.
They want to know, their thoughts,
Yeah.
their opinions and what they're up to. And I think too, you were right that everybody's not comfortable being on social because, we're 40, 50, 60s and up. And so there's a lot going on social. It changes often.
Yeah.
And so we help build that confidence, build out your capabilities. And then what we also do is we help out for events. So we do a lot of during and post promotion for the events. It's actually more than just promotion. It's creating a lot of awareness throughout the event, and then creating a lot of impressions.
Very cool. Yeah, I noticed that that's what you guys have gone to is more events and conferences and things. And then with your focus on the social media training, can you share a little bit about what you are about to launch?
You mean, with the social media capabilities development? So it's a full program that we're offering. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes, this is exciting.
Are you able to share that yet? If not, then we'll just, put a teaser out there for people to follow you.
Okay, so I am building out a course on how to create social media content easily. Yay. And the reason I'm creating this is because I have a lot of small businesses that have come to me, and even mid-sized businesses, and everybody struggles on how to create social media content. And it's frustrating. So you've got the fact that content is king, and you need to be putting something out there, and then the time that it takes and how to get started, and then the frustration of being very reactive on social, and we don't want that. And so I've been working on a course. We're halfway done. And I'm really excited about this because it's very thorough. It's going to be going through who your target market is, what kind of tone do you want to use towards your audience, and then about branding and how do you want to brand it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to share all the secrets, tips, and processes that we do for our customers to make it easier for you, creating a content calendar and how we go about creating the creative parts for, or the creative assets for the posts. And then all you have to do is follow the process and go ahead and start posting. So it'll be much easier for everybody to create a lot of social media content.
I love it. I love it. And you are launching that course in the new year, I believe?
Yes.
Or within the next month or so?
No, it'll be next year for sure. I want to make sure that it's very thorough.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of worksheets involved in it just to make sure that the steps are there. I don't ever want to just tell somebody like, okay, well, create a really pretty post. Well, that doesn't really tell you much. Or the importance of a pretty post. Well, what is a pretty post? How do I create a pretty post? How do I put a hashtag with the pretty post? You know what I mean? And so I want to make sure and guide everybody, hold their hand through it. And then once they get it, they can, share this with their team in their office and have their assistants create a lot of social media content. So this is something that can be given to a lot of people for small businesses, a lot of their employees. And then you can, go ahead and use some of your staff to create the content for you. But at the same time, through this program, the whole company will be aligned on who the target audience is and what the branding needs to look like.
I love that because you and I talked about I was working on a similar thing where I had a course for a DIY type of social media program for small businesses, because so many times I am approached by small mom and pops who I would love to help, but unfortunately they don't have the resources to be able to hire me on, but they can certainly help use the help that helps them to plan on their stuff on their own, and if they've got a staff person who can help them with the social media content and strategy, then even better, right? So it sounds like you and I are on similar paths right now.
Yeah,
it's really nice. So I'm super excited because I would love for us to be able to collaborate in some way.
Yes, I would love that.
So very cool. We are winding down to the almost end of our hour. So, and we've talked about how your immigrant background has helped to kind of shape what some of the things that you've wanted to do with being an entrepreneur. So I know we've mentioned a lot of great advice, or you've shared a lot of great advice. If there were any key takeaways, someone watching the show, they wanted to go start their own business or do something else or just make that shift in their lives, what are like 3 key takeaways that you would tell them?
That's a really good question. I think the first one goes back to the self-awareness. Really think about what you want, because whatever you choose to do as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to do it day in and day out. So it's got to be something that you really are passionate about, or at least you're really good at and you enjoy it. I think second is you've got to put in the hard work. I talk about how flexible my company is and I can take a laptop, but I work every weekend. I like to work every weekend because it lets me catch up. And it's quiet, but the hours will have to be put in either way. So don't get frustrated. If your business isn't going full speed 3 months in, it does take time. And I think the third is go easy on yourself. You don't have to just have sleepless nights. I try as much as I can to get my 8 hours of sleep because I'm just in a better place. And maybe because I'm getting older too, I'm realizing like, hey, you know what? My body is just a happier soul when I get my sleep, when I feed myself. So go easy on yourself and just push that ball forward every single day. But be kind to yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I think that last point we forget often because we are our own worst enemies, right? We beat ourselves up more so than anybody else could possibly beat us up. And that's great.
Absolutely.
That's a great reminder. And you're right. It does take a lot of hard work. And as Keith says, lots of late nights. But yeah, I'm in the same boat, like, because I can't stay up till 1 or 2, continuing to just keep working. My brain is not functioning. And I would rather just go to bed a little bit earlier and wake up earlier, and my brain is fresh.
See, and I'm the opposite. Like just 2 weeks ago, I stayed up till 3:30.
My gosh.
But Legally Blonde came on TV and I was like, hey, I love that movie. And then I started developing the back end of my website. And then the next day, my poor developer, I had to call him and go, okay, good news is I made a lot of changes. The bad news is I screwed up some stuff. But once I start focusing, I can't stop. And I get this like late night sort like energy at 10:30 at night. And I have to be consistent and tell myself, go to bed. That's what I'm fighting with because I have to take my kids to school the next day. So, and get up for meetings and calls and go to work. So if I could, I would pull a all-nighter with my movies, right?
Yeah. Well, you got, like some people have music in the background to help their creative juices. Like, hey, if Legally Blonde is going to work for you, then everybody's different. But I used to be like that too. I was a night owl. It just shifted at some point in my 30s. So again, I'm, it must be an age thing. I don't know. But everybody's different, and everybody's creative juices go off at different times. So like,
and I think
late at night.
Absolutely. You need to know when those creative juices are going because some people are morning early birds.
Yes.
And if that's when you get your stuff done, get the most important stuff done first thing in the morning. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So know yourself.
And know yourself. Yeah, that was one of your points, right? Know yourself, and know what you're passionate about and when things work best for you. And that's how it will help you to be consistent and be successful down the road. Hopefully.
Absolutely.
Kasia, oh my gosh, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Phenomenal. I was super excited to have you on here as well. And I loved everything that you've shared because it really is a lot of advice and things that people need to know and hear. And again, your story that, you've been working at it very hard for years and now you're successful and you're reaping some of those rewards. And I'm happy to see that you are reaping some of those rewards for your hard work. But it's a roller coaster, as you mentioned earlier.
You just never know, but you keep going.
Yes, you keep going and keep making those great connections. Knox said, nice job, ladies. Thanks, Noxie.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. And I have one more show before Thanksgiving. I was about to tell everybody happy Thanksgiving, but I have one more show. Rachel Moore is going to be on with us next week. And Rachel's another person that I think would be a great connection for you as well, Kasia. She's out of the Denver area too, Mia, and she collaborate on a lot of things. And I love them. They're like my sisters. So just a great network of women. But I am super, super happy and really just grateful that you were on today to share your story and all the words of wisdom for everybody. So thank you again, Kasia.
Thank you for having me. And yes, come down to Dallas and let's grab a coffee. I want to meet you in person. Give you a big hug.
I froze for a minute. Oh no, I was saying we can grab a coffee or an adult beverage.
Yes, absolutely. Or both.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.